It's finally official. Germany's Bayer is now the world's biggest agricultural chemicals and seeds maker. That's after it closed the purchase of US rival Monsanto on Thursday. Bayer sealed the deal with Monsanto for $63 billion after an acquisition process that took almost 2 years. It has also decided to drop the brand's 117-year-old name. Earlier this week, the company said it will raise $7 billion in a rights offering and $23 billion from bond sales to manage some of the debt it's taken on through the deal. Monsanto is the world's biggest supplier of genetically modified organisms. One of its signature herbicides is Roundup, which contains glyphosate. It's been heavily criticized by some scientists and environmentalists, and the World Health Organization has said it may cause cancer. Monsanto, however, has disputed those claims. Now, our editor-at-large, Craig Copetas, joins us from Paris for more on the Bayer-Monsanto merger. Great to have you on the show, as ever, Craig. Now, just very quickly, before we get into what's happened, give us a bit of history on Monsanto. I mean, it is over 100 years old. How did it start?
Founded in St. Louis in 1901 by a fellow by the name of John Queeny, who took $5,000 in cash he made through a soft drink distribution company. And that company today is worth, was just bought for $63 billion. It's quite a success story. He named the company Monsanto because that was his wife's maiden name, and he thought it was a kind of user-friendly name.
Friendly is not something, a lot of the criticism that I see looks like, and there is so much hate, so much criticism. Craig, is it warranted?
Well, look, roll the Monsanto blooper reel. This goes back decades. Their problem started with Agent Orange, glyphosate, PCB, dioxin, virus-resistant melons, of course, Roundup, another herbicide called dicamaba. Then they were an antitrust target in the United States in 2009. They had an $80 million settlement with the SEC for misstated filings in 2016. But my absolute favorite, Maria, was in 1966 when the state of New York went after them for an ad they had on TV saying that Roundup was, quote, safer than table salt, unquote. And the state of New York lost that suit.
Certainly a lot of criticism, Craig. Now, for the critics of Monsanto, what is the solution then?
Well, you got two problems here. This merger comes on the heels of ChemChina's acquisition, of Syngenta, which is the Swiss seed giant, and the merger of Dow and DuPont, now known as Dow-DuPont. So what we have right now are just three countries, the US, Germany, and China, control pretty much all of the global agriculture industry. And that's dangerous because Monsanto, along with Dow-DuPont and ChemChina, are the rallying point for the anti-GMO and environmental movement. And Monsanto now having its name changed to Bayer is not going to alter that fact. In fact, it's going to get worse, I would suspect. And just because they changed the name, that doesn't mean they don't still have the liability for any problems that happen down the road.
Mm-hmm. So, Craig, really, if I understand this well, the issue here is how the world feeds 7 billion people with chemicals that are potentially harmful.
Right. If you want to feed a lot of people, you have to use chemicals. And if you go into boardrooms when they discuss these issues, there is collateral damage, and this is where the lawyers come in. And it's a shame, but it's reality. But what you have to remember here is if you want to feed, you have to use a lot of this agrochemistry. Now, Werner Baumann, the Bayer CEO, said just yesterday that he intends to deepen Bayer's dialogue with society because he added that agriculture is too important to allow ideological differences to bring progress to a standstill. Now, that sounds real nice, but these are not ideological differences. They're scientific differences.
Craig, thank you so much as ever. Craig Copetas joining us from Paris.